The idea of having this connection, this emotional resonance that spanned the decades between writer-director Ann Turner and the audience, myself, in watching this, that she was able to bring this emotion out in me and have this movie that really did impact me. I love that. Hello and welcome to Rotted Reviews, and today I want to talk about the 1989 film from Australia, Celia. This was a Rotted request that was put in by patron Jackie, who wanted me to watch and review this because from what she says, this movie, it was a bit of a ride. And you know what? I have to agree with her. This is one that it was completely off my radar. I had never heard of this movie, but I'm very glad that I watched it. This movie follows the character of Celia Carmichael, played by Rebecca Smart, as she's interacting with her family. This movie is set decades prior during the height of the Red Scare, and the movie really kind of kicks off when Celia comes to find that her grandmother, who's living with them, has passed away in her sleep. And we get the impression very early on that Celia was very, very close with her grandmother. They had a connection that she didn't share with the rest of the family, and this is a terrible loss for her. So one of the ways that she wants to kind of get over this loss is a little bit of scratching that itch of FOMO. When one of her classmates has a pet rabbit, she very much wants a pet rabbit of her own. And things kind of come to head on a bit of a societal level because this is an era in which, factually, wild rabbits were being an invasive species and taking over Australia with wild repercussions, causing big government crackdowns, which kind of brings me to one quick point here. I don't typically do this, but I am going to offer a trigger warning. If you are an animal lover and you don't like seeing animal violence on screen, this is a movie to be very careful with. Kate and Scott, I'm talking to you. So this is a movie that I very much enjoyed. It was, one of the taglines in the poster is Celia, the eerie, chilling tale of one child's terror. And I really didn't find it to be that so much. It wasn't really exactly a coming-of-age story, but it reminded me a lot of recently reviewed Poison for the Fairies, where it's more just kind of taking a child protagonist and making it a snapshot in time, something that kind of shows the era of yesteryear with all the complexities of growing up in a complex situation, with complex people and complex politics and complex issues, and all the terrible, dramatic tragedy that can occur as a result, viewed through the lens of innocence and how that innocence can be corrupted. And Celia as a film, being a bit of a snapshot in time, really did remind me a little bit of Fellini's Armored Core in that regard. It put me in a period of time in a country that was very foreign to me. There were aspects of the adults talking about the communism and the ramifications of it, specifically how involved Australia was within the Pacific Theater, that I never even really considered until having watched this. And for my money, I really do genuinely cherish a lot of the films that do center around a child protagonist and put them squarely within the lens of adult dramatic tragedies. There's something about it that resonates and rings true with me and my childhood. So having that element of just wanting to go out and play with friends down in the quarry or have a pet rabbit be completely marred by the adult world around me, yeah, there's something, there's a connection there, and I very much identified in a very strong way with not necessarily the characters and what they were going through, but more the thematic events and the tone of a lot of what Celia was encountering. As far as the end, I'm going to keep that spoiler free, but I will say that that is one thing that really made me think of Poison for the Fairies more than anything else, is this situation where we have this character really embroiled within the adult situations that are happening around her, and all of it coming to a head in spectacularly dramatic fashion. And that's where, if I was going to categorize Celia as a horror movie, it's the ending that would really drive that home. I think the thing that really hammered this movie home for me was the performances. This had a lot of child performances, and none of them really felt forced or in any way amateurish. Everybody felt very natural, both in the antagonistic and also in the loving fashion between characters that had to kind of show both sides of that simultaneously, hopping from one foot to the other as the complexity of these characters really shone through. There was an element of me that enjoyed this movie, although I would have to say that the thing that I really felt more than anything else as I was watching it was heartbroken. And that's something that I think is a real positive for this film. It may not sound like it, but I just enjoy so much any art piece that can make me feel. And this movie made me feel for these characters, and it broke my heart in a really fantastic way, a way that, I wasn't exactly happy about, but at the same time, the idea of having this connection, this emotional resonance that spanned the decades between writer-director Ann Turner and the audience, myself, in watching this, the notion that she was able to bring this emotion out in me and have this movie that really did impact me, I love that. So I'm very grateful to Jackie for putting this one on my plate, and I highly recommend, if you get the chance to check out 1989 Celia, to please do so. It's absolutely worth a watch. I don't think it's necessarily the bonkers roller coaster ride that some of the promotional materials will advertise it as, but I think that Jackie was right in that it was a ride in and of itself, just not necessarily a carnival ride. So thank you very much for joining me here today. I do appreciate it. And remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.